Aria moved silently through the heart of the jungle. Each step measured, each breath controlled. The forest was alive with vibrant color and sound. Yet beneath its beauty lay a danger that only the experienced could sense. She had faced death before, when a collapsing cliff nearly crushed her, when starvation gnawed at her insides for days, when predators with eyes like fire stalked her through the night. But today felt different. Today the silence itself was threatening. The canopy above blocked out much of the sun, casting the jungle floor in shifting shades of green and gold. Even the birds had fallen silent, and the insects, once deafening, were now eerily still. Aria tightened her grip on the sharpened spear in her hand, the crude weapon that had saved her life more times than she could count. Instinct told her something was wrong, and then she heard it, a low, heavy thrashing sound deeper in the trees. It wasn't the quick, graceful movement of deer or the playful chatter of monkeys. This was deeper, heavier, and filled with struggle. Her heart quickened as she pushed through the tangled underbrush, careful not to make noise. Branches clawed at her arms and vines tugged at her clothes. But she ignored them, moving toward the source of the sound. When she broke through the final wall of foliage, her breath caught in her throat. There, in a small clearing bathed in fractured sunlight, a massive python was coiled around a young leopard. The snake's enormous body rippled with muscle, tightening its grip with terrifying strength as the leopard let out weak, desperate cries. Aria froze. Every instinct screamed at her to turn away, to let nature take its course. After all, the jungle had its own laws, and interfering could mean her death. But Aria had never been one to walk away from suffering. The memory of every life she had saved, every impossible battle she had fought, surged through her veins. She knew she had to act. The python's head lifted from its prey, golden eyes locking onto hers. It tasted the air with its forked tongue, sensing a new threat. Aria's muscles tensed. One wrong move and those coils could crush her, bones as easily as they were crushing the leopard. She slowly circled to the side, searching for an opening, every sense on high alert. The silence grew heavier, pressing against her chest like a physical weight. Memories of the past flashed before her. The river that had nearly drowned her, the wolf pack she had driven off with fire. She had survived all of it, and she would survive this too. With a deep breath, she lunged forward, driving the spear into the python's side. The jungle exploded into chaos. The snake hissed. The leopard snarled, and Aria screamed with determination. The fight for life had begun. The python's hiss tore through the jungle air like a thunderclap, a primal sound that made Aria's blood run cold. The spear had pierced its thick scales, but the creature was far from defeated. Its immense body thrashed wildly, uprooting plants and tearing through the undergrowth with terrifying force. Aria stumbled backward, narrowly avoiding a strike from its massive tail that smashed into the ground with enough strength to break bone. The leopard, sensing a brief reprieve, let out a weak growl and struggled against the loosening coils. But the python was relentless. With a furious twist, it recoiled its muscular body, dragging both itself and its prey closer to a massive tree, using the trunk as leverage to tighten its deadly embrace. Aria knew she didn't have long. If the snake completed another constriction, the leopard would suffocate within minutes. Her mind raced, calculating options. She couldn't match the python's raw strength, but she could outthink it. Moving in a wide circle, Aria snatched a jagged rock from the forest floor and hurled it toward the snake's head. It wasn't enough to wound it, but it did what she hoped. The serpent's head snapped toward her, its attention now split. Seizing the moment, Aria lunged in again, this time jabbing the spear deeper into its flank. A roar-like hiss erupted from the snake as it released its coils, just enough for the leopard to wriggle, free and crawl a few feet away. But the victory was fleeting. The python turned its full fury on Aria, its enormous body coiling toward her like a wave of muscle and scale. She rolled aside as it struck, the impact shaking the ground where she had just stood. The fight became a deadly dance. Aria ducked, dodged, and struck, using every ounce of her agility and experience to stay alive. The python lashed out again and again, each strike closer than the last. A glancing blow slammed into her shoulder, sending her sprawling into the dirt. Pain exploded through her body, but she refused to give up. Gritting her teeth, she forced herself to stand, gripping the blood-stained spear with trembling hands. This wasn't just about saving the Leopard anymore. It was about proving that she could still defy death, no matter how many times it tried to claim her. With a fierce cry, she charged again, her spear raised high as the jungle echoed, with the fury of a battle older than time itself. Human against nature, courage against fear, life against death. The world around her seemed to blur as Aria stumbled forward, every breath burning in her chest. The jungle, moments ago deafening with chaos, had fallen eerily quiet again, as if the entire forest was holding its breath, watching the ancient battle reach its final chapter. The python writhed and hissed, its massive body weakening from blood loss and exhaustion, yet its will to live burned just as fiercely as Aria's. Both warrior and beast were broken, but neither would surrender. The leopard, now free, crouched behind a fallen log, too weak to move but alive, a small victory that fueled Aria's resolve. This fight had never been about glory. It was about survival, about defying the fate nature had written for her. And now, as the serpent coiled for one last desperate strike, Aria knew this would end with one of them drawing their final breath. The python lunged, its mouth gaping wide, aiming straight for her torso. Aria sidestepped at the last second, driving the splintered shaft of her broken spear deep into the serpent's throat. The creature convulsed violently, its body slamming into the earth and sending a wave of dirt and leaves into the air. But it wasn't over yet. Even mortally wounded, the python lashed out with terrifying strength, coiling around her legs and dragging her down. Aria hit the ground hard, pain shooting through her back. The air was forced from her lungs as the coils tightened, crushing her ribs like iron bands. Darkness began to creep into the edges of her vision, but she refused to let it win. With trembling hands, she reached for the jagged rock she had thrown earlier. Her fingers brushed against it, then gripped it tight. Summoning the last of her strength, Aria drove the rock again and again into the snake's body, each blow fueled by sheer willpower and raw instinct. The serpent's grip faltered, its movements slowed, and with one final shuddering breath, the mighty predator went still. Aria collapsed beside its motionless body, her chest heaving, her body shaking from exhaustion. The battle was over. As the first rays of dawn pierced the jungle canopy, Aria sat silently, watching the light fall across the lifeless python. She felt no joy, no triumph, only a deep, primal respect for the creature that had tested every limit she possessed. The leopard, still alive but weak, crawled toward her and rested its head against her leg. Aria smiled faintly, placing a gentle hand on its fur. Together they had survived. She knew the jungle would challenge her again. It always did. But this fight would be etched into her soul forever. And as she rose and walked deeper into the wilderness, her spirit burned brighter than ever. Death had come for her once more. And once again she had turned it away. The jungle was no longer silent. It was alive with chaos. Birds exploded from the canopy. Monkeys screamed warnings from the treetops. And the air pulsed with the raw violence of the battle below. Aria's breath came in ragged bursts as she circled the monstrous python. Both predator and prey locked in a deadly standoff. The snake's golden eyes burned with hatred, its muscles rippling beneath its thick scales as it prepared to strike again. She knew one mistake now would be fatal. Her body ached from the blows she had taken, but her spirit was unbroken. Every scar on her skin was a story of survival, a memory of times when the odds were just as impossible as they were now. This fight was no different. With a sudden burst of speed, the python lunged, its jaws opening wide enough to swallow her whole. Aria leapt aside at the last moment, the creature's fangs snapping shut inches from her leg. She retaliated with a powerful thrust of her spear, grazing the snake's head and drawing a hiss of fury. The serpent coiled tightly, its massive body forming a wall of muscle between her and the wounded leopard. It was protecting its prize, not out of cruelty, but instinct. Yet Aria's instincts were stronger. She knew she had to end this quickly before exhaustion slowed her reflexes. She scanned the clearing, searching desperately for an advantage. Then she saw it, a jagged piece of fallen wood lodged in the ground, sharp enough to pierce even the python's armored skin. Gritting her teeth, she formulated a plan. She shouted loudly, drawing the snake's attention to herself, and then bolted toward the wood, forcing the beast to follow. The ground shook as the python lunged after her, its body moving with terrifying speed. At the last second, Aria pivoted. sliding under a hanging branch and planting her spear deep into the earth. The python's momentum carried it forward, straight into the sharpened wood. The creature let out a screeching hiss, its body thrashing violently as pain rippled through it. Aria didn't hesitate. With every ounce of strength left in her, she grabbed the spear and drove it deeper, pinning the serpent against the fallen trunk. The jungle roared with the sound of its fury, but its movements were slowing. Still, Aria knew it wasn't over. The snake's tail whipped out one final time, striking her hard in the chest and knocking her to the ground. Gasping for air, she crawled back to her feet, blood dripping from a cut on her forehead. This was it, the final moments of a war she had no choice but to win. With a primal scream, she charged forward, ready to finish what she had started.